It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Tyrone Russell. Hey, Tyrone, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing fine, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate
Absolutely. It. Thanks for having me.
So I'm looking through this thing. You came through Steve Shire, is that correct?
Yeah, Steve Shire, and I was reading his book, Power Up, about the cannabis industry, essential tools for committed cannabis leaders or something like that. And he was just telling me about your show and some of the stuff you do, and thought it'd be a good introduction.
Well, we're happy to have you here. I'm looking at your bio. Also says that you're the president of the Cleveland School of Cannabis.
Yes, I am the president of the Cleveland School of Cannabis. I've been the president for about 3 years now, man.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's an obvious joke there about teaching people how to smoke weed, but I think it goes beyond that. I'm sure, right?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We do not teach people how to smoke weed. Instead, we really we're into developing the workforce, man. There's no real standardization in kind of cannabis workforce development. So we went into the world of academics to create, with a bunch of partners, that type of standardized learning, man.
Well, this is all about the byproduct, right? I mean, there's all kinds of products that are being made with the marijuana plant.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when you say the byproduct of the marijuana plant, right? This is a byproduct of the marijuana industry, right? So when we're looking at different ways to extract cannabinoids and all that good stuff from the flower, there's ways that we can extract different industries out of the cannabis industry in itself, and education is one of them. And so teaching people how to grow it, teaching people how to recommend it for those patients who need it, teaching people how to extract some of those chemicals from the plant. Those are all things that we do at the school, right? What do you do with that byproduct? Do you create candy with it? Do you create different methods of intake with it, right? So we teach that type of stuff at the school.
Well, I've seen everything from liniment oil that you can rub on your sore knee to shirts and handbags made from hemp, right?
Yeah, man. Have you ever heard of hempcrete?
Say it again?
Hempcrete, like concrete?
No.
Yeah, man. They actually build houses out of hemp, right? And hemp is a cannabis plant, right? Much like marijuana, the THC version of it. But, they actually build houses out of hemp concrete, or hempcrete, I should say, and like livable structures in addition to diapers, T-shirts, pants, and things like that, right? Rope and all that good stuff. Hemp is a pretty magnificent, plant in itself.
It seems that way. And, it's unfortunate that it got labeled by our government as something akin to heroin and cocaine. And, even at this point, this is one question I wanted to ask you, is technically it's still illegal on the federal level. A lot of states have opened it up for medical and for recreational use. How difficult is it with your business with the feds still having this labeled as an illicit drug?
Oh, man, it's extremely difficult. So cannabis itself, if you look at cannabis, the entire plant in itself, the hemp aspect of it is legal, right? The Farm Bill made sure hemp legalization was something that we can get into and start having conversations with. So you see a lot of farmers just across the nation growing hemp for use. But the THC level of it, right, the marijuana plant is the illegal aspect federally. So it's been extremely difficult, even in education. You would think that in education, since we're not directly touching the plant or selling the plant or anything like that, the THC, since that we would be able to, bank. But when the first time people find out that we're in the cannabis industry per se, or we're creating people to get into the cannabis industry, we run into issues with our banking. So we haven't been able to find banks. We haven't been able to access loans. So even developing a school, we've had to, dip into our own pockets, right, as a business owner, and then rely heavily on what I would consider some some unfair funding practices by people who can afford to provide funding, right? High interest rates, quick turnaround, hard money loans, things of the sort. And in some cases, if you look at the dispensaries, folks dealing in cash, which is extremely dangerous. So, the criminalization of THC marijuana and putting it next to heroin in itself should be criminal from my perspective because of all of the issues that it causes down below.
Well, I agree. So the states that it's legal, I mean, it's legal here in Nevada, and there are weed shops around. So all of these people, they have to deal just in cash. Like I don't remember if they even take credit cards in there. I don't think so.
They don't. They don't. No. Now, what they can do, right? There's always a way around the system. What they can do is treat their stores like an ATM. So in order to use a card, it has to be a debit card, and some way you can pull cash off of it. And you go in with your debit card and you pay and punch in your code, and then they give you the change. So if your bill is $340, $341, you take out $360, right? Essentially, and rather than them give you the full $360, they just give you the change in $19, and they keep the $360. So those are kind of ways around the unfair banking that exists and the difficulties it is to purchase cannabis products with anything other than cash, right? So there's a way people have access the usage of cards, and it's really through treating the servers like an ATM.
Is there any activity in Washington to legalize this whole thing and just get it going? Because obviously the business is going to be a huge multi-billion-dollar business that the government should be looking at as a way of earning revenue, generating tax revenue. This would be a huge win for them.
Yeah. And in D.C., the conversations have remained much of the same. I think the big thing right now on the table is trying to at least deschedule it or reschedule it and take it off the Schedule 1 substance list and move it down a few blocks. Because Schedule 1, it says there's no medicinal benefits, no one can touch it to do research, so on and so forth. So you really put handcuffs on anyone looking to learn a little bit more about cannabis and use some government funding to do some of the research to find out, just how beneficial it may be. So in D.C., I know we've been talking about fair banking for a while, right? So giving cannabis companies access to just dollars and safe banking. So the conversation surrounding that is always at play. I think the big thing in Washington, it's like, who's going to get credit for it, right? Who's going to get the credit? Who's going to be able to pat their chest and beat their chest and say, I did it? And on the road to that person getting credit, who's willing to stop and get in their way because they're not getting the credit? So I think once they can figure out how we can all win and they can all say, I did this for the community, right, I think they'll move a lot faster. But it's just a lot of posturing in D.C., as you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother topic for another show.
Right.
But all right, let's talk a little bit about your school. So the Cleveland School of Cannabis, if I was a prospective student and I signed up, what do I expect on, day one or maybe day two coming in there?
Oh, man. So one thing you can expect is some anxiety, right? And a lot of that has to do with the history of the treatment of cannabis. So what I mean by anxiety is people walking into the classroom unsure of just how warm the environment is going to be, right? You're talking about people who may have been told that, marijuana is something you should never deal with, or you shouldn't talk about it if you do, keep it under wraps. It's something you do in private. It's the walk your cousin takes during Thanksgiving. You're like, where did she go? And when is she coming back? And she comes back excited and ready to eat, right? So you don't really talk about it. So I think some of that hesitancy and some of that kind of brainwashing carries itself over into some of our students who walk into the classroom and say, is it safe to talk about this, right? And then as they get going, they realize that this is really a school where we are engaging in cannabis conversation, and it isn't a place where I have to be silent about my usage or about the benefits that is provided, or the fact that I may have some candy in my bag that as soon as I leave here, I'm going to start to medicate, right? But in terms of the academics, what you can expect is some of the most in-depth education that you're going to see in the country, right? There's no other program that offers a course over a 6-week amount of time, 25 hours, this in-depth. There's no other program that's pursuing national accreditation that I'm aware of, right? So we at CSC try to align ourselves with the most rigorous academic standards possible so that we can legitimize the education and ultimately legitimize the industry. So, day one, you can expect to walk into, we just purchased a building. So you can walk into our building, labeled the Cleveland School of Cannabis. You can expect to see, folks in there cooking and learning how to cook with cannabis. Now, we can't cook on the premises, but we can teach people how to cook, and you can walk through the halls and smell like fresh cheese baking because they're learning how to make cheese, or fresh cookies or donuts getting fried up because they're learning how to put THC into donuts for folks who may need that. So you can expect to see just like an energetic family-like atmosphere at the school because we all understand what we're up against on a national scale when it comes to legalizing and having conversations about marijuana, THC cannabis.
How many students do you have currently?
So currently we have about 203 students. We've graduated a total of 700, and every term, we have 6 terms per year, we get anywhere between 40 and 60 students registering. So, if we're really rocking, we're at about 250 students at one time taking courses coming in and out of our building.
Okay, and you said that people graduate. How long is the process? Is this a 4-year school?
No, and that's one thing we're trying to get in front of, man. I'm an academic. I was in higher ed all my life, really, as a professional. And when I left, I realized that there are a lot of things that our school and the Cleveland School of Cannabis doesn't have to do to stretch 4 years, right? There's not, all of these general educations that we have to teach. We want people to be prepared to get in the industry. So every program is 150 clock hours, and every program consists of 6 courses that are 25 clock hours each. That's how you get to the 150 clock hours total for a program. So if I'm coming there and I say, hey, I want a certificate in horticulture, I'm going to have 150 clock hours worth of horticulture information, right? How to grow the plant. If I say, hey, I want to learn about extracts and processing cannabis, I'm going to have 150 clock hours worth of that education. If I want to learn about the medical aspect of helping, clients work through or patients work through their understanding of cannabis, I'm going to get 150 clock hours for that. So we have 6 certificate programs in total. The other 3 one is in hemp, right? So really the hemp side of the industry. And then the other is the executive program, which gives you a taste of all of the programs that we offer. So the single programs are 150. Our executive program is actually 300 clock hours. So you're taking 12 classes in there with that program.
Okay. Are most of the people that come to your school, your students, are they prospective entrepreneurs? I mean, they really want to take what they're learning there and go out and start their own business doing something?
Man, Doug, you'll be surprised, man. It runs the gamut, and it actually gets us not into some trouble, but it makes it difficult because when we're going for national accreditation, with schools, everyone is supposed to be looking for a job afterwards, right? So we're being judged on the standard that, in our opinion, sometimes is unfair because everyone isn't looking for a job coming into our school. So we have people who are entrepreneurs saying, I want to know all I can about this industry so I can get in there and start my business. And then you might have someone who's 75 years old who says, look, I want to know a little bit more about the medicinal usage of cannabis because I want to continue using it, but in a more productive way than I have since the 70s, if you will, right? And then you have folks who are really committed to finding entry-level work. So they come to the school to learn what it means to work in a dispensary or what it means to work in a manufacturing facility. So all of these people ranging from ages 18, so we had a graduate at 71. A few of our alumni have actually started businesses after leaving the Cleveland School of Cannabis. So it runs the range, man. It runs the gamut of different people walking through those doors, which makes it exciting.
Now, how long has the school been operating?
We started in 2017 was when we first started offering classes on campus, January 2017. So 5 years. We're celebrating our 5th year mark this year.
Okay. Was this your invention? I mean, was this school something that you created?
No. So I met a guy on an airplane who wanted to create a school. I have a marketing firm, International Marketing and Development. Yeah, I have a marketing firm, and the guy I met on the plane said he was, we were both flying to Dominican Republic, and he said, hey, I have this idea. We're talking on the plane. He said, I have an idea. I want to start this school because I've been in the cannabis industry, and the workers are terrible overall. Not everyone, but the market is just not good for employment. People come and go. People aren't walking into the doors with the skills that we need. So I want to start a school. Can you help me market it? I know you have a marketing firm, right? This is based on the conversation. And we said, yeah, we'll come out to Cleveland and we'll see what we can do to help you market this. And we got on the ground, and it was a solid start. But remember, my history is in higher education. I actually went to school, to graduate school, to learn how to build colleges. And when I got there, I just said, there's some changes that need to take place if we're going to make this thing serious, if we're going to take this serious. And he brought us on board. And at the end of our 2-week visit, he said, hey, I can't afford to pay you everything that you're worth, but I would love if you would come on as a partner and help take this to the next level. So that's how I got in the door from a marketing perspective, right? Helping brand this school and market the school, but then the history of education kicking in, and the person who, the founder saying, hey, we want to make you a partner, and ultimately turned over the reins to be president to me.
Wow, that's great. Well, I hope this takes off. In fact, this might make an interesting franchise school. Are there others, or is Cleveland the only one so far?
So with us, we only have Cleveland. We have several other brands that we've introduced to the market. Some of them I can't share yet because we haven't yet put out the press release on it. But we have some other ways of getting people to learn cannabis education. And there are a lot of other educational institutions, right? You have several of them. The majority of them are online, so module-based, where there's content. You watch video, you take a test. We kind of pride ourselves, like Oaksterdam. Oaksterdam is the oldest cannabis school in the country there in California, in Oakland. And we pride ourselves on the in-person contact. We think that's so critical. So there are other schools out there, but the majority of them are online. We're one of the few that offer courses, live instruction in class with the building to do the work. So there are many, but we're one of a few that do it the way we do it.
Okay. Do you offer online as well, or strictly in person?
No, we offer online as well. So when COVID hit, and luckily we were ahead of the curve. So December 2019, we were doing some module-based learning too, for students who couldn't make it to campus, and we decided to switch to live virtual classrooms. So people would come and listen to a faculty member online live. They can ask questions and exchange information and ideas there. And then COVID hit, and in March 2020, luckily we had done that in December 2019, because when March hit, we moved our entire campus online. And by July, everybody on campus was comfortable with that, right? We had some skirmishes in March, but by July, everyone was comfortable. So when we started bringing people back to campus in July 2020, some people just said, hey, can we continue with this online portion? It really works. So we do offer live virtual education. Nothing is module-based. Everything is live in real-time coursework that people are getting.
Well, we got to wind this down. Thanks so much for coming on. Do you have a website for the school?
Yeah, man, CSC, as in Cleveland School of Cannabis, csceducation.com. Hopefully, once we get this accreditation, we'll be csceducation.edu. So one thing, if anybody ever says they're an accredited school and they're not working with the .edu, you got to question and raise an eyebrow. So once we get that accreditation, we will have the .edu. But for now, it's csceducation.com. Please follow us, check us out, and talk about us, and let's start to standardize this education in cannabis, man, so we can take it to the next level.
Well, I agree. All right, my guest is Tyrone Russell. Thanks so much for coming on, Tyrone. It was nice talking to you, and best of luck with the school.
No, I appreciate it, Doug. Thank